Thanks for watching this short video. It's focused on the Kildal method, Stacy Kildal method. When you're looking for job profitability within QuickBooks Online Plus, it uses a sub-customer method and the budget to actual reporting in order to get an estimate to actual reporting experience. But there's some settings that are important to go through. We'll look at the two-sided item setup, and I have a very simple estimate. We'll look at my budget, and then the reporting you can get as you enter data against the sub-customer. So first, come into your accountant settings, and you'll get there under the gear icon, right? And then accountant settings. And then you're going to go to expenses first. Make sure that you have this show items table on expense and purchase forms if you happen to be using non-inventory parts and bringing them out to the job, or you're tracking expenses and items by customer. We want to definitely have that field because you want to tag the sub-customer, aka quote-unquote job, kind of how you do it in desktop, so that you can look at a P&L by job or filter it by the sub-customer or budget versus actual. And I'm also going to be making a budget, right, based on the job. So make sure you set up the customer. We'll look at that real quick and how to make it a sub-customer, but definitely turn this box on. Right? Now, whether you make it billable or not is really up to you. It just adds the ability to pass something through to an invoice. But in our scenario, the estimate's already been accepted. So I'm not going to actually, I'll make a change order just by create an item like a non-inventory or service item called change order, or create a new estimate for the customer or whatever, since we don't really track specifically change orders within QuickBooks Online at this time. But I'm not actually going to pass it through to an invoice. I'm just going to be invoicing against the estimate. There is no progress invoicing, so there is a workaround, and that'll be the last thing I show you. And of course, there's a great third-party app that really does all this stuff and more, including tracking labor burden, because there's no way to do that in QBO either. You'd have to do like a $0 journal entry, debiting and crediting, the same payroll expense accounts and tagging the job. Knowify, Knowify, great third-party app. There's also CoreCon, Builder Trend. These are going to do what I'm about to show you in a better way. But if you're just wanting to do some simple job profitability and budget to actual reporting, here's the Kildal method, right? So I'm going to still check off this box because there are times when I do pass stuff through to an invoice, but in our example, we're not really using it. But definitely, check those three off. And then go to the Advanced tab and make sure if you're doing any time tracking for like your subcontractors or employees or whatever, that you add the service field to timesheets. They might be doing some drywall or framing or installation, right? And again, you can make the time activity billable, meaning QBO would want to pick it up on an invoice or include it there. Okay, not our scenario today, but you might be doing some time entry. So those are the key settings that you'll want. The other one in Advanced is this copy estimates to invoices. Now again, it's going to want to copy the whole estimate to the invoice, but that one would be helpful. And if I go back to expenses, ironically, copy estimates to purchase orders, there's that one as well. I would check off those two also. All right, so we're done here, and here's my customer. I'm going to edit it. I went to, sales, and by the way, your sales in the left-hand panel might include an invoicing tab. That's fine. Mine just has all sales, customers, and products and services, right? And if you have the older left-hand panel where it says home and then, the other things here, don't worry, you'll eventually have this dashboard, banking, sales, expense type view. But we're going to look at the Rafal and this custom cabinet install. That's the work I'm actually doing. So I created, a customer. I just called it custom cabinet install. Here's his address. And then I checked off the box on the right, is it a sub-customer? And a bill with parent, because Rafal is going to be actually paying off the invoice. I want to use that parent:-child relationship as far as a list goes, or a name or a list element. So I know that the invoice or the estimate anyway is for the particular job. Some people will put in a job number there. That's fair as well. Let's go ahead and look at the estimate per se. And yes, I have multiple tabs open. We'll look at that. So pretty easy job. It was accepted, right? Estimate was created today. And I have some custom cabinets, a counter as well that we're putting in. It's actually half of a counter. And then just paying the labor for installation. It should take about 6 hours. And we're going out to this address here to do the gig. It's a non-posting transaction. The amount for the custom cabinet is $3,500. It's about $1,900 for the counter, or that half a counter there. It's marble. What are you going to do? And then you have $210 for installation. This is what, my customer Rafal has agreed to pay me $5609.98. I'm not tracking any sales tax or whatever. I could give him a discount, or I could take a deposit up front if I wanted to on a sales receipt. look for a video on taking upfront deposits from customers on our website as well, so you know how to do that. I'm not going to show that. But I have the estimate. Now that I have the estimate, I also want to have the item window open, the products and services. Why? Because we want to use two-sided items here. And again, I'm not really using inventory parts for job tracking. It's better to do non-inventory and two-sided items. And if you do have to use inventory because you keep it in stock or whatever, like you see cabinet pulls here or whatever, hinges or something like that, widgets, just know that the cost of goods sold will not be impacted till you actually sell it. Right? Put it on invoice or a sales receipt, typical of desktop. So I have these custom cabinets and a counter, and it's, these are the amounts, but let me edit just one of the items here. Notice it's a two-sided item. I have the sales info and I have the purchase info. So based on that information and the estimate, I then went to create a budget, and we'll go there. You go to the gear icon, right, where you'd go to do account and settings, but instead we're going to take a quick hard right down to budgeting. And I actually created a budget for this job. I just chose to do it at the year, and if you have the updated budgeting view, that's great. Either way, same principle applies. I'm going to use the estimate and the totals and the accounts linked to those items to fill out the budget. So materials income is going to be $5,400. Subcontracted labor income is $210. And then I have $3,850 for job materials, and then subcontractors is $90. Right? And that's going to be the budgeted revenue as well as expense or cost of the job. And what I did is created a budget filtered by a customer. In this case, it was for, the custom cabinet install gig that we have. You can create multiple budgets per fiscal year in QBO Plus, which is fantastic because you can't do that in desktop. And I find that if it's just a job I'm doing, though the default is to put in these amounts monthly, it's best to view them by year and enter them by year. Also critical, I think it's just easier. You're just doing the totals based on the estimate and for those accounts that are linked to those two-sided items. That way, when you go run a report and you're going to go to all reports and choose business overview, scroll down, you'll have your two budget reports, and you need plus for the budgeting. So I have the budget overview, and then I have the budget to actual. And what I suggest is you're going to click customize when you come in here, and then save the customization so you have it. Report period is just going to be for this year, but you can do multiple budgets. You could just, as long as you choose to filter by the job, doing the budget, and look for a video on creating a budget on the website as well, because I'm not going to show that either. You filter for the actual sub-customer when you're setting up the budget. Don't forget to do that. And we're going to leave this here. It's great. Rows and columns. You do some comparison. I'm going to do money over budget, percent of budget, remaining if you want. I guess we could show that as well. And then, you can choose to only show accounts with budgeted amounts. And I'm actually going to choose, the accounts versus total because that's how I entered the budget in. But it's up to you. You have some other options there. Okay. Then I'm going to filter by customer, and I'm going to look for, Rafal. There he is, and it's the custom cabinet install. Now, when I run this report, I got my actual, which is nothing yet. I haven't entered any data, so we're going to do that. But I have my budgeted amounts, and then the over remaining percent of remaining, right? So this is my estimate to actual report, or really cost to complete, if you will. You can do that within Plus. The key is to have two-sided items linked to the appropriate accounts, create your estimate, and then use that estimate to create the budget for the revenue and cost of the job that you can expect, and then run your budget to actual report. And once you're done customizing, save the customization, right? So this is going to be, for this particular job, right? And you can even add it to a group, if you will, or even share it with another user. So I'm going to go ahead and click save. So at any time I can come back and go to reports, right? Because I'm going to be looking at this report throughout the job and go to my custom reports. And then I have under jobs, I have this budget versus actual, Rafal custom cabinet install gig. Now I can run the report to see my updated numbers. So let's go do some data entry to see how that. Now sometimes it's good to have multiple tabs open, right? So I got the estimate here, and I can actually take it and put it on another monitor. Though you can't see that, just know that I have an estimate open on my other monitor, just because of the amounts, And I'm probably going to go and write a check or enter a bill or maybe a credit card expense for the subcontractors. That's what I want to do now. And the thing that's nice about a budget to actual in QBO Plus versus estimate to actual and desktop is you'll never get the no item column or the no item row, because as long as the accounts are hit, the same accounts you have on the budget, then when you run the report, you'll see the amounts. I don't have to hit like the item that was used on the estimate. Okay, but you can, but you don't really have to. It's not required. I can just look at the accounts if I want. In my case, I'm going to. So I'm writing the check to, their subcontractor that they kind of give me, and it was 85 bucks. So I'll see the 85, and here's the key thing. Click in the customer, right? That setting we chose in accountant settings will add the customer field, and you want to go ahead and look for the sub customer. I'm not going to make it billable. I'm not passing it through, right? Because the customer's already agreed for the estimate. So you go ahead and click save and close. And then we'll also look at, and you might even have the product and service window open as well. So again, you can right click, duplicate the tab. That gives you another tab. It'll give me another home page or a check or whatever I was on. And I want to go ahead to the products and service list, just so I'm remembering the cost. This is why I like the third party better than the workaround. The workaround is just going to require a lot of rigidity, for making sure you remember the cost of the job, et cetera, because there's no cost on the estimate, unlike desktop, right? We have that markup column. We don't have it. So you can't really use the estimate for everything. You got to use some reports or the products and service lists so you know what cost it was for like the counter, right? So I can do 1,900 and 3,500 be a credit card expense to, whoever the vendor is. I'm sorry, 1,500 and 2,100 and 1,750. So I'm doing this expense. Again, I don't care about accounts right now, though I could use them in case instead I'm looking for the actual custom cabinet. Cost comes over, and remember, make sure you tag that job. That's going to be the key, right? So scroll down to the job, or just do a quick type. Now I have $2,100 in cost of goods sold going to this particular sub-customer. I'll click save and close. And now if we quickly go run the report, and this is where it's nice, I can go to my custom reports and just run this report. You're going to start seeing some actual cost of goods sold being tagged to this job. And now you can see, over budget, remaining, or percent of, and percent remaining, right? And I guess what we could do is, though there's no progress invoicing, you might as well see how you would do it. So let's bring the estimate back into play here, put it back in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to invoice for half of it, which should be typical. Maybe do 30%. I'm going to do half. But you need to first turn on custom transaction numbering and accountant settings. You'll find that if we quickly go over there to accountant settings under the gear icon and click on sales, and then just click in here anywhere in the sales form content and check off the box custom transaction numbers. And that gives you the ability to kind of edit this number. So I have an estimate number. Before I want to copy it, I want to kind of do like a, -01. And then I'm going to make a copy of it to change the actual numbers. But first, I'm going to invoice half so I can actually change this to 0.5, and then this to 0.5, and this to 3. All right. And then that way I can click more, click save, and then go ahead and click more, and then copy. And that's going to create an estimate. And now I can go back here and do 1-02. So now I should have 2. And they're both half, right? So I'm going to invoice against just one of them. So now I have 1001-01 and 1-02. Sorry about that. Let's go into that one and just make a quick change. So now you'll see I have estimate 1001-01 and then -02, right? It still matches the original total, but this is where you have to be really careful, right? Why, if you're doing a lot of this in progress invoicing, I would look at Notify. Okay, I think I just proved my point right there. And then we can go ahead and invoice the first one. You just click Start Invoice, or if you happen to be on the invoice window, I like doing that, but if you happen to be on an invoice because you're invoicing something else and you bring up, the cabinet install, both estimates will show over here. And you can choose that first one to add, and now I'm invoicing half of the job, and then they're going to go ahead and, I can go to customer payment and receive payment. But when I hit save and close, now the report should change. Remember, when you're using multiple tabs, it's not an auto refresh kind of thing. So if I go to the report, I'm going to go ahead and force the refresh or hit F5. See? And now I got some revenue showing up. And this is essentially the Kildal method with the progress invoicing and the things you need to set up around settings and two-sided items and creating that sub-customer so you can do some profitability for the job, or at least budget to actual. To go to the profitability, well, that's when you go to reports, just to tie this off. Go to all reports and either do accountant reports or business overview, and then you can do profit and loss by customer, but definitely customize it first. And same thing like with the budget to actual, you're going to check off customer and filter for that particular customer. Just let it come up and scroll down and look for your filter there and then run the report. And this is my profit and loss by customer. Of course, I could edit the header and call it profitability by or job or something like that. But that's my profit and loss for that specific customer. And of course, don't forget to save your customizations and add it to that jobs group or whatever you call it, so you can run it specifically for each job from the My Custom Report section of reports. If that was helpful, have a great day.